Hello guys, welcome back. I swear you guys are psychic. I really do, because somebody asked me a question, and I'm not oversharing because they asked me publicly on this channel of would it be a good idea to tell Loki that you're falling in love with him? If, for example, you also like Marvel Loki. Well, as long as you know the two are different, and this person does, as I do, as all of you do, then it's fine. A couple bad examples have made us all look bad. We all endured the Fakians that saw Tom Hiddleston and decided that Loki looked like him, and I'm not saying it would be beyond Loki to attract people that way, but the way they were acting, if you've worked with Loki for a while, you know there's a certain degree of attention that even Loki doesn't want, and these people were pretty rabid and fanatic, and they were pretty scary, and I would just hear, no! And if any of them contacted me, and I would tell people, I'd say, I can't make him do what he don't want to do, but this was not the case in this case. We're always going to since we love Loki, we're going to sometimes be fans of portrayals as him. There's the Marvel ones, there's like ones in movies, there's one in operas, there's like whatever, comic books, whatever, novels, Neil Gaiman's Loki, whatever. And it's okay to like a character and still be, still be in love with the god as opposed to just loving the god, because you guys all know I'm very open about the god spacing thing. And I thought that's a very timely question, because Loki and I had hit a rough patch here for a while. Not as bad, thank the gods, as it was 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, we just fought from one end of the day to the other, because I had to get a lot of stuff sorted out. And it takes a lot of work once you admit to Loki, or any other god, because in my experience it's all the same thing. Once you admit you're in love, you have to say, then work at your own pace. What conversations the two of you are going to have are going to be up entirely to you. Or some people don't have conversations with the gods, they just get thoughts or feelings or dreams or what have you. So that's all going to be between the two of you. There's no right or wrong way to tell, a deity, or like there's no right or wrong way to tell a person, that say lives next door or serves you coffee or whatever, that you're smitten with them. Don't go out your way to scare them. Don't go out your way to scare them. And I would say any deity would kind of react kind of cautiously if they never met you before and you ran up to them and you said you were madly in love with them and you wanted them to marry you. They would probably be like, that's wonderfully convenient since we've never met. But if, it's normal. To me, I think it's normal for people to fall in love with a deity, and this explains so much about my past, and I always wondered what was wrong with me, but Loki is a charmer. He is certainly a charmer. And he certainly likes, as most people who hate god spousing, he likes to have spouses and assorted others. And I'm not trying to be mean, assorted others in whatever capacity. He likes to have spouses, and he doesn't give two damns about whether or not they're already married, whether or not they want to be married, or just whatever, or whether or not what their gender is, or whatever else. He's not fussy. I've told you guys, I think I own every Loki book in existence, and this one article says, quite frankly, he will bring up sex at some point, unless he knows you're actually asexual or it would horrify you for whatever reason. Loki is friendly. Loki is extremely friendly. I had a viewer one time go, you mean that horny tomcat? I'm like, yeah, that guy. And we say it lovingly. He's a god of, in a sense, fertility, because Loki's a god of whatever the hell he wants to be the god of. And he's a god of sexual energy, and he's a god of romantic energy, and he's a god of, hey, how you doing? Sometimes it's casual, sometimes it's more important, and you two do have to work that thing out so nobody gets hurt. If you want to keep it casual, make sure you tell him. If you want it to be serious, make sure you tell him. He's usually pretty good. I haven't known him to go out of his way to hurt people. What I have known, and I'm going to warn you guys because I have people complaining to me about this and I can't control what other human beings do. There are people that straight up make up stuff. And then they post it on the internet because they are Loki's favorite Princess as is the third. And that's not a knock about anybody who watches this channel, but there are a couple people that go around the internet and Loki is madly in love with them. He's been in love with them for 20 lifetimes, or they had a thing I can't mention on YouTube happen in a car or bus stop, or you don't need to share that stuff. People don't need to hear that stuff. As the wife of Apollo said, nobody wants you to walk up to them, whether it's a mortal or divine spouse, and start talking about, I had sex with your spouse and this is how it went. Nobody wants to hear that. Just because you're married to the same person, like say somebody has multiple wives or husbands or whatever, polyamorous, they don't always want to share that. If they do, if that's part of their romantic relationship, that's one thing, but it's very bad form to walk up to another spouse and just say, hey, guess what we did last night? Really don't want to hear this. Cannot unsee what I just saw. There's this one book of poetry that you'll either appreciate it as erotic Loki poetry, or you will just be crying for a very long time, and Loki will be like, what? Oh, that book. Yes. Uh-huh. There's nothing you can do about it. And again, YouTube, anyone else could describe some of the escapades in the book, but if I did it, I would get banned for a lifetime, but they are adult escapades, and I'm like, either you're going to be like, oh, that's so nice, or you're going to be like, because, you are not in love with him and you have another relationship, or you are in love with him and you really don't need it rubbed in your face that he's having this relationship with someone else. I'd say, though, to get back to the main topic of, can you tell him you're in love with him? Of course you can. It is complicated because he's a highly popular rock star god right now, and a lot of that is Marvel Loki. We might as well get that out of the way. If the movies hadn't come out, I think he'd still be popular. I think he would have found a way to research, but then it would have been something else. If it wouldn't have been Marvel, it would have been maybe a TV show, or it would have been something else. And we would have that aspect to deal with. It's just a thing of learning. It's just like anyone else, whether they're divine or whether they're immortal or whatever that you say you're in love with. You have to give the relationship time. And Loki usually won't take it in a bad way, but he will be honest. He is an honest god, and I know that's scary, but he will be honest and tell you if he feels the same way or something. Usually he does not lead people on. He can be a bit of a flirt, but he usually does not lead people on. So I'd say, just have the honest conversation. He'll be fine. He's totally okay if you like Marvel Loki. I have a little chibi Loki back here somewhere. Can you see him? Yeah, there he is. There he is. By the skull, yeah. He's fine with me having some Marvel stuff. In fact, we have it on a couple of the altars you guys usually don't see, and we laugh about hysterically because we think it's funny. And he is enough of a smartass to show up as Marvel Loki if he so wishes to. And there have been Lokeans that like to cosplay Marvel Loki. It's not a big issue until you get fanatic about it and you get out of control. You can have all the Marvel Loki stuff you want and still have actual Loki, as long as you can still differentiate between the two, and as long as, even if you develop a belief that Marvel Loki is a subsection of Loki, you can separate mythology Loki from Marvel Loki and know the difference between the two. To me, I really don't care what people believe, as long as they don't force it on other people or they don't get a little scary obsessive about it. And we all go through that scary obsessive stage with Loki. Some of us do. Some of us do. And Loki gets like, I'm gonna go out for sandwich, and then you don't see him for a little while. But yeah, it's okay to tell him you're in love with him. It's okay to not be in love with him. It's okay to have whatever relationship you want with a god. I know a lot of people foam at the mouth and they hate that, but I honestly think that's because Christianity has so permeated everything that we have this knee-jerk reaction to that. But it was actually quite common in the old days for people to have an intimate relationship with a god or be considered a spouse of a god. They did not use the same terminology, but we see references in Greek and we see references all over the world of being taken up by the divine. It's very common among Christian saints to say that Jesus came and he, not in I want to be very careful not saying a romantic sense, but he swept them up and he was the best looking bridegroom. And he just so swept up their heart that they couldn't think of having an earthly spouse, and they willingly gave up an earthly spouse and gave up, having children and all that, and they got swept up by their Lord. So yes, it's very, possible for any god to have that effect on people. Odin's infamous for it, and so why shouldn't Loki be, and why shouldn't Balder or Freyr be? And I've seen every god that we have, or goddess, sweep people up like that, and they're totally sane people. It's just some people are kind of afraid of that, I think, or maybe they don't approve, but they can keep their disapproval on their own channel. They don't have to come over here and share, because as you guys know, I don't go start trouble anywhere else, so you don't need to do it here. But I figured I'd make a response video because I was kind of timely questioned, because I haven't been doing, I think, enough. And I think that was part of why I got that frantic bee in my bonnet, to love him not only as a god and serve him not only as a god. I told him I was frustrated. I almost felt like he was my boss, not realizing it was Loki I was talking to. I said, I don't want you to be my boss anymore. What happened to my best friend? And once I said that, everything started to make sense. So I not only have to treat him as my best friend, but treat him as the spouse, treat him as the god I fell in love with, not as this god that I just get enough stuff for because we're buddy-buddy. There's nothing wrong with being in love with a god. There's nothing wrong with having fallen in love with Loki or any other god. No, I'm not crying, you're crying. So I actually think all the wolf stuff came from Loki, because he was like, that's a female ring. And I'm like, oh, you got me a ring of my little sugar dot. So Odin probably doesn't even know who I am, and probably wonders why the hell does that Lokean have an Odin altar. But I will never know the truth, and that's fine. Serving Loki is an adventure and a privilege. So I hope that helped, guys. And if you don't like God spousing, which I think is a stupid name, you could say lay marriage, you could say relationship, whatever, but don't be a jealous dick about it. That's the only thing I can say. Early on this channel, I had somebody who liked to spoof every god they could, and they were a real jealous dick about it. They were straight up nasty to me and saying, this is why you can't have this, and blah 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 blah, because basically they didn't approve and they wanted to jump on every god's disco stick, and I'm like, not my house, you don't, because I caught them with where they got the reference from, and I'm like, this person is known in the Lokean community for doing, not the person that attacked me, for doing fantastic amounts of drugs, and anything they see should be seen through that filter. They're fucking whacked out of their skull on drugs, probably not even known to most people. So, as you will, just let the relationship develop naturally. And it's a wonderful time to be in the relationship, and you do kind of have to work at it. Don't let it slide, as I can sometimes, but we can all do that. Every relationship, whether it's romantic or, paternal, fraternal, whatever, can fall into a rut. And I think I don't mention it because I don't like making people uncomfortable, and people will sometimes whine at you like, why do you have to mention that? That's like my father, and blah, blah. Well, people have to be able to discuss it somewhere. So if you don't like it on the channel, there are other channels that talk about Loki, I am sure. So if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope that helped. Bye-bye.